Hello, it's good to see you. Today we are going to be reading from a newspaper, and we can of course handle it and crinkle it. I've always enjoyed the sound of a newspaper. So we're just going to look through this section and find some different things to read about, some different articles, and we can start with this one. So I'm just going to open it up a little bit. Now here we have some pictures that accompany the article. Alright, and the title of this article is Styrofoam Haunted Mansion. That sounds interesting. And it does continue over to another page. So we're going to turn over to that in a minute. Okay. Styrofoam Haunted Mansion. Making others smile is his love 364 days a year. On the Halloween, or a day close to Halloween, he likes to make himself smile by scaring the others in his haunted house. Jesse McPherson has been smiling for years at his home in Twin Harbor, a small community of campers, small homes, and other such structures. Twin Harbor is a secluded community on Lake Tillery. McPherson and his helpers had old and young alike screaming in pleasure, if that makes sense, this past weekend. Within the confines of his neighbor's small boat lot and structure, McPherson, Cindy Hughes, and Chelsea Morgan made a haunted house, mostly out of styrofoam, to help raise money for the community. Hughes stated, "He's got the vision, we just help him get there." The scary structure was open October 27th when kids and adults alike meandered through a maze of cobwebs, holograms that jump out at you and in turn make you jump backward, giant spiders, bats, in a cave with a baby dragon. The baby dragon almost makes you want to smile and pet it. I guess it's a pretty big dragon. Until out of the corner of your eye you see the head of a much larger dragon coming at you with eyes of terror and a roar that would make anyone's heart miss a beat. So maybe that's not the baby, maybe that's the bigger one. Look at the size of those teeth, my goodness. The most amazing aspect of this Halloween delight is the number of scary things in such a small space, and the fact that McPherson makes almost everything out of styrofoam. It began like many projects for men. About 7 to 8 years ago, my wife volunteered me to help with the Haunted Trail fundraiser, McPherson stated. I really didn't know what to do, and to be honest, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. So up here you see him, he's holding one of the large teeth of the dragon head he made from styrofoam. That is impressive. It was one of those props that had visitors screaming and laughing at the haunted house in Twin Harbor. That is incredible. I would love to see how he does that. He was an obedient husband and went. A few kids put on masks and jumped out from behind trees, which McPherson said after a couple of times the trail walkers were not really being scared. It was redundant, not scary, he noted. We'll take a look at some of the pictures down here. Up here we have McPherson Manor. From left, Cindy Hughes, Jesse McPherson, and Chelsea Morgan created this frightful but fun McPherson Manor. And here we have this picture that starts out like this. And it's a hologram. This hologram looks so innocent above, but if you wait long enough, it will make your hair stand up on top of your head. And look at the spider webs. It's kind of like the spider webs I used in a video a few days ago. Giant spider. Visitors do not want to get caught in this web. For 2, it was too late. go to B10 for the next section. And it's on the very back. Wow, look at that. The swamp monster holds a skull as he scares those visiting the haunted mansion in Twin Harbor Saturday night. That's wild. Above, McPherson donned this hideous costume to give all a glimpse of what visitors to the haunted mansion would encounter in the dark. Ooh, creepy. The next year, McPherson took over to help the community, he said. He wasn't sure what, where, or how, so he did some homework. I asked myself, how does Disney do it? He stated. I did look up how Disney did their haunted mansion. They had some cool stuff that back then was cutting edge. Now it is pretty easy, McPherson stated. So he began to brainstorm. Styrofoam was easily accessible, and his creative side took over. He volunteered to make a castle for a murder mystery play at Twin Harbor, which was set in medieval times. Thinking ahead, he envisioned this castles being part of his Halloween set. His fences are made from PVC pipe. His castle and other things such as skeletons and coffins are styrofoam. It is genius what he has made from basic materials you can find at any craft store or hardware. Add on some technological lights, voices, holograms, and other scary things, and you have one of the best haunted houses you could ever visit. The one thing he did buy was the gargoyles that greet trick-or-treaters as they make their way into his house of terror. His most impressive work, according to McPherson, was his dragon head. Visitors get to experience that creation near the end of the tour. He also made a swamp creature, which he tried on. Though the sun was shining and one knew he was coming, it was still enough to make your eyes go wide when he came out. We do it because it's a lot of fun, McPherson stated. It has gotten bigger each year. I enjoy it. It's like a chess game. You come here to get scared. So when you get here, you're trying to figure out what's going to happen so you won't be startled. The part I like best is I'm going to make you think you figured it, and then over here, I have a little surprise that you can't process fast enough and you get scared. The kids and the adults love that adrenaline rush. You hear the scream and then the laugh. It's just fun. If you have the chance to visit Twin Harbor, you might have to ask a friend who lives there. It would be worth a visit. The haunted house crew has made a Halloween treat worth the effort. So that is a really awesome costume. I need something like that. I don't know if my son would like it if I went to a school dress like that. It'd scare everybody to death. And in here we have some little articles, some little pieces under happenings. Our towns. Mount Gilead. Don Hall Sr. was a colorful character and led a colorful life. I would say he enjoyed his life to the fullest. The article title is Quite the Cool Cat. Even when he was confined to a wheelchair the last years of his life. Don was quite the cool cat in high school, going around and flashing his famous smile at all the girls. He worked at the Gilmont Theater during high school and enjoyed every minute of it. He started out selling popcorn and graduated to running the movie projector. When Don graduated from high school, he went into the Navy along with his buddies, Bobby Blake and E.R. Crump. While he was stationed at Jacksonville, Florida, he met the love of his life, Jean, and they married and later came home to North Carolina to live. Don opened a business in Raleigh and specialized in working on foreign cars. While visiting the state fair once, a photographer took a picture of Don and Frank Crump. Frank says they just mailed his picture to him, but Don became a model. His first job was simply a picture of his hands, but his career was launched. When he was called for a new job, he just closed the doors of his business and went, and he modeled until he retired. He did one ad holding a calf, one riding a tractor, one for trains, one for a dentist, and others. Don was known as a jack of all trades. Jean said he could do anything, even plumbing, but he hated it. Once Don and Jean, Frank and Mary Sue Crump, and their daughters, and E.R. and Alva Crump were all at the state fair, and Jean went into a porta-john. E.R. thought he would play a trick on Jean, and he slipped around and started shaking the john. What he didn't know was that Jean was already out, and a very mad woman emerged. She also had a very mad husband. Finally, things cooled down and E.R. emerged unscathed. Don Hall left a message for us. Enjoy life to the fullest every day. Donnie Hall Jr. lives in Mount Gilead and works at Jordan Lumber Company. Don and Jean are now both deceased. And then they have town news. December 1st is the date for the Mount Gilead Parade and Christmas Fest. Vendors will be set up at noon. The parade will begin at 2 p.m., and the festival will last until 5:30 p.m., when the annual lighting ceremony will begin. Everyone is invited to attend the best Christmas festival in the county. And down here, we have hats off and a shout out. Hats off and a shout out to the people who came out to support me in the Mayor's Walk last Tuesday at the Star Elementary School's walking trail, built by First Health with a grant from the Duke Endowment. A special thanks to Stacy Burris Crump and her Star Elementary School Running Club for participating. These young people brought at least one parent to share their experience, plus the politicians, mayors, and local adults. A special thank you to Dale Grant for doing the walk for me, and to everyone who came to help us beat the town of Troy in participation. This event was part of the 10 Days of Uwharrie. The Ether United Methodist Church will sponsor their annual barbecue dinner, which will be held on November 3rd from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. The plates will be by donations and will include barbecue, slaw, baked beans, bread, drink, and homemade desserts. The barbecue will be cooked on the church grounds by the men of the church. The monies raised will be to support their community outreach programs. The Star Board of Commissioners will meet on their regularly scheduled meeting date of November 12th at 5 p.m., although this is Veterans Day holiday Monday. Starworks will have their monthly hot glass and cold beer event on November 8th at 5:30 p.m. There will be a food truck on site, and their cafe and tap room will be open. We have a winner. The 31st Star Christmas Postal Cancellation drawing was won by a young lady who grew up and went to school in Star. Beth Green, the daughter of Jane M. and the late Bobby Green, went off to college and found a job in the northeastern part of the state. Beth's mother, Jane, was a teacher at the Star School for years before her retirement. Her father, Bobby, was on the Board of Education and was a collector of vintage cars. The drawing was a snow globe, and I will have more on Beth and her artwork next week. My heart is broken today after looking out and not seeing all the lighted pumpkins that have been surrounding my house each year and getting ready for Halloween. I have hundreds of pumpkins in a storage building, but I am unable to display them this year. I have been decorating the outside since 1976 and making my candied apples, but this year is different. I am unable to walk without a walker and hate to ask anyone else to do what I have been doing for years. What really hurts is knowing that the great-grandchildren of the kids I started with will not receive the candied apples this year, and the people who came from far and wide just to see the decorations will not see them. Maybe next year. Since time is waiting for no one, don't forget the Christmas tree lighting at the Star Town Hall on November 24th at 6 p.m., sponsored by the Town of Star and the Star Heritage Association. And then this story is done. This little blurb is titled Small Bit of History. In 1927, a family was at the John Bean Place, 1.5 miles northwest of Lovejoy. The mother saw her brother playing in a bright light that was hovering above the ground. A few days later, her brother died. In 1935, my father told me he saw a light like the one seen at Lovejoy. He said he was at Shiloh when he saw a glowing light hovering 2 miles southwest of the Lovejoy Church. In 1940, my uncle and his wife were driving on the Ophir Road, Tower Road, when they saw a ball of light roll under their automobile. In 1956, I also saw a light while on the Ophir Road like the one seen at Lovejoy. These sightings remind me of other lights in North Carolina, like the Brown Mountain Lights in western North Carolina, and I have heard of a light seen often in Brunswick County. These sightings remain unexplained. Experts say it's swamp gas or something like ball lightning, like the 1940 case above, but no one can really know 100%. Maybe we are not supposed to know. A bit of history. The Confederate Treasury's coins and bullion were removed by railroad and wagon from Richmond to Abbeville, South Carolina, where it was turned over to officials moving south with President Jefferson Davis. On the long route from Richmond to Abbeville, the Confederate Treasury was guarded by members of the Cadet Corps of the Confederate States Naval Academy. The Confederate States government was located wherever President Davis and his officials were as they located to Abbeville. This conclusion then makes us ask the following question. Was Troy a temporary capital of the Confederate States while President Davis and his officials came through Montgomery County on their way to Abbeville? The answer must be yes. On May 10, 1865, the president and his officials were captured in Irwin, Georgia, but the bullion and coins were not captured. There are legends that the bullion was hidden in Montgomery and Stanley counties. A wagon of bullion went to Stanley County. Also, bullion was taken to the Uwharrie region of Montgomery County. It was said that some gold was placed in the barrel of a cannon. So years later, Confederate gold may be yet here in Montgomery County. Footnote: The late Lieutenant Colonel Standback of Mount Gilead stated that Montgomery County militia fought a pitched battle with Sherman's troops at the Pekin tithing station, and there are Union graves in the Pekin area, at least 2. Lieutenant Colonel Standback was instrumental in preserving Montgomery County's history of its role in the war between the states. The title of this little section here is Watch for Me NC, provides tips for Halloween safety. The North Carolina Department of Transportation, through its Watch for Me NC pedestrian and bicycle safety program, urges parents, motorists, and trick-or-treaters to be safe this Halloween. More than 2,200 pedestrians are injured or killed in collisions with motor vehicles in North Carolina each year, and more than a third of these collisions occur in the evening or at night. The Watch for Me NC program offers these tips to help make Halloween safer and more enjoyable. For parents, before children begin trick-or-treating, parents should plan and discuss a safe route for children to follow and establish a time to return home. Instruct your children to travel only in familiar areas and along established routes. Make sure that an adult or an older responsible youth will be supervising the outing for children under age 12. Make sure children carry flashlights, glow sticks, or wear reflective tape on their costumes to make them more visible to motorists. Let children know they should stay together as a group if trick-or-treating without an adult. Review all appropriate safety precautions, including pedestrian and traffic safety rules. For trick-or-treaters, to have a safe trick-or-treating adventure, be sure to stay in familiar neighborhoods along the established route and stop only at familiar houses unless accompanied by an adult. Walk on sidewalks, not in the streets. If there are no sidewalks, walk on the left side of the road facing traffic. Cross streets at crosswalks when available. Look both ways before crossing streets and cross when the lights tell you to cross, after you check for cars in all directions. Carry a flashlight, wear clothing with reflective markings or tape, and stay in well-lit areas. Wear a watch that you can read in the dark. Don't cut across yards or driveways. For motorists should be especially alert on Halloween and should drive slowly through residential streets and areas where people walk. Watch for children darting out from between parked cars. Watch for children walking on roads, medians, and curbs. Enter and exit driveways and alleys carefully. At twilight and later in the evening, watch for children in dark clothing. The Watch for Me NC program is a collaborative effort to reduce pedestrian and bicycle-related crashes through enhanced education and enforcement of safety laws. It consists of pedestrian, bicycle, and driver-focused safety messages, as well as concerted efforts by area police to enforce relevant laws. To learn more about the program, visit watchformenc.org. Here we have a story about the Three Rivers Land Trust, Cottle Creek Reservoir conserved. Three Rivers Land Trust, formerly the Land Trust for Central North Carolina, is excited to announce the permanent protection of 41 acres in Cabarrus County on Cottle Creek Reservoir. Kay and Everett Helms generously donated a conservation easement on their land on October 5th. The Helms Conservation Easement provides for the protection of surface water quality and the conservation of ecological diversity and wildlife habitat. The easement prevents any form of residential, commercial, or industrial development on the property in perpetuity. The easement also preserves a scenic view shed along Macedonia Church Road. This property is located prominently on Cottle Creek Reservoir, a drinking water source for the city of Concord. The Helms property possesses 2,550 feet of stream frontage on the reservoir and an unnamed tributary. The easement provides for a 75-foot clean water management, permanently forested buffer around the reservoir and stream for water quality purposes. We would like to thank the Helms family for their commitment to local conservation and working with us to protect their property, states Executive Director Travis Moorhead. Cabarrus County is a rapidly developing area, And the Helms wanted to do their part to preserve the water quality of the reservoir and the wildlife habitat found on their property. The North Carolina Clean Water Management Trust Fund helped facilitate this conservation easement by providing a portion of the transactional costs through a mini grant. For more information about this project, or to learn how you can support Three Rivers Land Trust in our mission to conserve other special lands in the Central Piedmont, visit our website at www.threeriverslandtrust.org or contact Crystal Cockman at crystal@threeriverslandtrust.org or by phone at 704-647-0302. There's an article over here I want to see. It's so hard to fold the paper. Here's a little article. Getting Lost in the Woods. The Outdoor Experience. No matter how much I hate to admit it, I have found myself at times lost in the woods. Not just disoriented, but completely turned around. One such trip was on a property adjoining the Burkhead Wilderness Area, 6,000 acres of open forest, and it was on my birthday. This is from Crystal Cockman. I'm not sure how we got lost exactly, but fortunately, I had enough sense to follow a stream consistently south, which led to a path and to the road I had parked on, although my friend and I disagreed on which direction from there the car was actually located. A friendly cyclist happened to ride by and confirmed my suspicions that the car was up the road. This past week at the annual URA Trail Through hike organized by Three Rivers Land Trust and the URA Trailblazers, I got 2 calls from the same hiker who was unsure where he was in the woods. The cardinal rule of getting lost outdoors is to not panic. Both times this guy called me, he was actually on the white blazed trail, and I'm sure if he had taken a few minutes to think about it, he would have figured it out on his own. The first time he called, he had wandered off trail and found his way back to the trail, but was unsure which direction to go. By the second time he called, he had pulled out his compass and asked me if he should just head north on the White Blaze Trail, and in a short time he caught up to some other hikers and was fine. While I was helping facilitate the backpacking trip, a buddy of mine was grouse hunting up in some high-elevation public land in Haywood County. He stumbled upon a bear hunter who was also lost in the woods. My friend asked him where he was parked and told him to follow a nearby stream downhill back to his car, which was about 4 miles away. The guy had no idea he had traveled that far. Gauging your distance is another important tactic to observe in the woods. I typically hike a little faster than 2 miles an hour, so I can usually tell how far I have come, though that may vary based on terrain, of course. This hunter must have made it out okay, because his car was gone when my friend drove back by that parking area. Besides not panicking, the second best advice I have found when it comes to not getting lost in the woods is to pay attention to your surroundings. Don't hike with your head down, looking only at your feet and a few feet of trail ahead. If you're hiking a blaze trail, keep a watch out for the next blaze every 50 to 100 feet or so, or every minute or 2. With the recent hurricanes bringing streams up to high levels, many of the trails had washouts, which can easily look like a path if you're not paying attention. Try to remember landmarks, such as a downed tree or a rock outcrop. Every so often, look back and observe the surroundings in case you end up needing to backtrack. I've heard the quote, "hike your own hike," which has some truth to it. Everyone doesn't hike at the same pace, and it can be frustrating to try to stay close to someone who is much faster or much slower than you. But it is always good advice to hike with a buddy or even a group when you can. Two heads are better than one, and you can help each other navigate and keep each other calm if there is an emergency. It's always good advice also to stick to a designated trail if possible. Although taking a shortcut may be a quicker route to the next stopping point, a shortcut isn't always the best path and could take you through some difficult conditions such as briars or thickets, which are easy places to get turned around. As far as helping with direction, particularly if you are going off trail, it is always good advice to bring along a map and a compass. Try to bring a waterproof map if possible, since you never know when a forecast might change. And if it doesn't have a north arrow and a scale bar, it's not a map, it's just a pretty picture. If nothing else, following a single direction on a compass will keep you from going in circles at least. And be prepared for dark. Bring a headlamp and a backup flashlight. Trails become considerably harder to follow once the sun goes down, so you may want to think about stopping altogether and preparing shelter and a fire. With advances in technology, I now rarely go out in the woods without a geo-referenced aerial map of the property I'm visiting, stored in Avenza maps on my phone. This app shows you as a blue dot walking around on the map of the property, so it is much easier to know where you are at any given time. It's still good to pay attention to your surroundings, though, and carry a physical map and compass as well, since you never know when your phone battery might give out. I'm sure I have more lessons to learn about spending time in the woods, but hopefully I'll be able to avoid learning at least a few of them the hard way. Thank you so much for coming to listen to my just random articles that I picked out of here. I didn't look at it in advance. I just picked them as I went along. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon.